So why have 34 federal judges from 11 different districts with a combined 474 years of service on the bench, judges appointed by Presidents Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Obama, and Trump, entered 57 different preliminary injunctions and temporary restraining orders against President Trump and Elon Musk's executive orders and actions, like the ones nullifying constitutional birthright citizenship, unilaterally dismantling congressionally created agencies, or impounding and diverting funds appropriated by Congress. Well, the majority says it's because these are radical judges. And they lead off, as our good Chairman Issa did, with Judge Jeb Boasberg, the chief judge of the District Court of the District of Columbia, who enjoined the mass roundup and deportation of immigrants to an infamous El Salvadoran prison in peacetime without any due process at all, allegedly under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, a statute explicitly limited to wartime and military invasion. Some of our colleagues have been railing against Judge Boasberg for ordering the planes to be turned around. They say those planes were filled with terrorists, I think my good friend from Texas said. Well, here's one person of many who wasn't a terrorist on that flight or a gangbanger. His name's Kilmer Garcia. He's a Marylander married to a U.S. citizen who has a 5-year-old son with autism. And he went to pick up his son, but he was picked up first by ICE. And then he was shackled and put on that airplane and shipped off to the torturers of El Salvador without ever having the benefit of those two most beautiful words in the English language, due process. He never saw a judge. Nobody ever told him what he was being charged for. Nobody ever told him that there were any charges against him. And he was sent to a mega prison run by the self-proclaimed dictator of El Salvador. And yesterday, you know what happened, Mr. Chairman? The Trump administration admitted that it had made a mistake. He was not actually a gangbanger. He was not a criminal. It was all a mistake. If there'd been due process, maybe that would have been determined, but there wasn't. But they put him on that plane and he's El Salvador. Well, all's well that ends well, right? No. The administration says there's nothing they can do about it now because he's no longer in U.S. custody. This guy who lives in my state, married to a U.S. citizen with citizen children, he's stuck with the dictator of El Salvador. Well, Judge Boasberg, some of our colleagues want to impeach him. Look, some of our colleagues, they've got for wanted signs in the Cannon House office building with the names and faces of judges on them. They want to impeach them now. They want to impeach Judge Boasberg. Some of my colleagues should be alerted to this fact. Judge Boasberg was first named to the bench by President Bush. He was Justice Kavanaugh's roommate at Yale. Known in legal quarters as a very conservative judge, but they want to impeach him because he stood up for the rule of law. Now, Democrats say all of these executive orders and actions are being struck down not because these are radical left rogue judges, but because the judges, regardless of who appointed them, are doing their jobs. If the number of decisions striking down Trump illegality is unprecedented today, it's only because the sheer number of illegal acts committed in the first 100 days is unprecedented. America's never seen anything like it before in our entire history. Trump and Musk have been systematically violating the Constitution and breaking the law to trample the rights of the people and steal our data, fire excellent federal workers en masse, and dismantle congressionally created government agencies and programs, from the VA and Medicaid to NOAA, NIH, and Social Security, which Elon Musk called, quote, the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. When brave Americans go to court to defend themselves against the President of the United States and the richest man in the world, these judges from across the political spectrum are showing up to work, and they're showing America why we have an independent judiciary. And yes, I've got to tell my friend Chairman Jordan that even if you campaign on doing something unconstitutional, like naming people kings and queens or stealing other people's money, no, that doesn't make it constitutional.
They may have access to artificial intelligence, but they've got no access to human intelligence. These founders of the Dark Enlightenment, as they call themselves, are no match for the founders of the actual Enlightenment like Madison and Jefferson and Ben Franklin and Tom Paine, much less the leaders who took down slavery and built Reconstruction like Abraham Lincoln and Harriet Tubman and Thaddeus Stevens and Frederick Douglass. If they think they're going to overthrow the heroes of American democracy, they don't know who they're dealing with. Our founders wrote a constitution that does not begin with "we the dictators." The preamble says, "We the people."
This is a moment when lawyers get to prove really why they're lawyers. Are they lawyers just so they can try to make $5 million a year, or are they lawyers because they believe in justice and the rule of law and the representation of people who are under siege? The judges get to prove why they're judges. Are they judges because they just like the sinecure and the tenure of being in the judicial branch, or do they understand their responsibility to enforce the rule of law against arbitrary power?
So unlike Donald Trump, Jamie Raskin is actually a constitutional lawyer. And not only does he know, but he cares about the damage that Donald Trump and his administration are doing to the country. You know, to me, one of the most hilarious and tragic things about Donald Trump and how he's just ripping up the Constitution left and right is that in a lot of ways, he's not even aware of the things that he's doing because he doesn't know the Constitution. He's never read it. You know, it's okay if normal everyday people have never read it. But, you know, given that he's the president of the United States, it seems a little important that he would know these things. But of course, this is the same man who bankrupted several casinos. And I mean, he's just a con artist. He doesn't know anything about anything. Y'all remember the interview that he had with Axios, and he was getting asked questions about some with the vaccines. And he was like, read the books. And the interviewer was like, what books? The books, read the books. Like, he really does not know anything. A total buffoon, a total clown. But tens of millions of Americans cannot get enough of this man. But yeah, no, like I always say, it's not even just that Donald Trump is malicious. He doesn't care about the country. He doesn't care about his job. He doesn't care about our foreign relations. All he cares about is lining his own pockets. But this is what America chose at the end of the day, so this is what we got.